We kick things off in rather steamy fashion as we see a highly successful actress named Lan Zhang posing for a photo shoot in front of her seemingly younger brother, Xiao Kai. Lan is an absolute stunner, and her good looks seem to get the better of Xiao, who starts to have a vivid imagination of their relationship with each other. His intrusive thoughts are interrupted when it's his time to pose, and the photographer even comments on how he wishes to have an older sister like Lan to take care of him. However, all Xiao can think about is fulfilling his fantasizes, and he tells us that he doesn't want to consider Lan as his sister anymore. This sets the tone for what's going to follow, and then we see Lan talking about her acting prowess. She states that she's reached such a stage wherein people aren't even able to tell if she's acting or not. This is, of course, a huge compliment for her, and then she proceeds to talk about actors who are younger than her. It turns out that all of these answers are for an interview. And then Lan mentions that she only looks at these actors as her younger brothers. A brief cover story informs us that Lan has just received the prestigious Pegasus Award for her acting accolades. And then we see Xiao, who is once again allowing his intrusive thoughts to win. We see him all by himself when suddenly Lan calls out to him asking for her towel. She is clearly in the nude as she is taking a shower, and this makes Xiao highly conscious of the situation. He carefully picks up his sister's undergarments and mentions that this behavior has been going on for 8 years. Apparently, Lan seems to have a loose memory, and she keeps forgetting her towel, and it only irks Xiao even further. He comments that a woman as beautiful as Lan shouldn't be asking a man to hand over her towel, even if the man is her own brother. These words have no effect on the babe actress as she pulls off a smirk to ridicule Xiao's concern. She recalls the time when her brother first came to her house, around the age of 12. It seems that Xiao was quite the cranky one and Lan mocks him for it, which leads to an awkward pose from our hero. She also proceeds to remind Xiao that he's still her younger brother, even though he's grown taller than her. Lan grabs her towel, much to our hero's bemusement, and he decides to give us a taste of his philosophical talents. Xiao states that once we have what we want, there is a strong chance for us to become greedy. This could possibly mean that he already has the person he loves, which is Jiang, but he wants more out of their relationship. This puts him in a difficult spot and he drops to the floor, feeling confused. At the end of the day, Xiao decides that he will continue to behave like a little brother, even though it pains his heart to do so. Now, we move to a train of thought where Xiao talks about his reason for becoming an artist. The scene quickly transitions to another steamy shoot where Lan is posing with a stud boy. There are some excellent pictures to be taken during this display, and even the photographer commends Lan for putting on a show to the camera. Of course, she is working very hard to pull off such a shoot, but Lan is also being very professional about it. However, as Xiao watches from the sidelines, he becomes victim to some gossip floating around the women next to him. They reveal the stud boy's name to be Peter and state that he is nothing short of a playboy who likes to use his hands everywhere. This insinuates the fact that he likes to take advantage of the women he does his shoots with, and for now, his latest victim is Jiang. The babe actress is visibly concerned as Peter tries to slide into more than her DMs, but then the photographer asks him to change into his second outfit. It turns out that someone has spilled coffee on it, so the photographer and Peter become a bit worried. Of course, it's not like Lan has a problem with this because she doesn't really want to be around Peter, but then she gets quite the shock. Xiao tells the photographer that the shoot will mostly require back shots, and if that is the case, then he is more than willing to be the model for it. He reasons that he's wearing similar clothes, so he can sub in for Peter. Everything works out in the end, as the brother and sister strike a few scandalous poses for the camera. Lan asks Xiao about the coffee she asked him to get, but he simply says that he drank it all. This is obviously a lie, and we can tell that Xiao was the one who spilled coffee on Peter's outfit. However, our hero maintains his facade and tells his sister that he couldn't resist the smell of the coffee. This is basically an indirect way of saying he wants to smell Jiang's body, and Xiao can't seem to get his mind off her dress. That's when we move back to Xiao talking about his motivation for becoming an artist. It becomes pretty clear that his reason is to get closer to his sister in a more intimate manner. The sudden surge in passion is quickly cancelled out by a gloomy sequence of rain in a graveyard. We see Xiao in front of his parents' graves, and he is most definitely in a troubled state of mind. This scene is essentially a flashback, because we can see that he's in the middle of a funeral service wherein his other relatives are grieving their hearts away. Out of the blue, Lan shows up and offers her umbrella to Xiao as a mark of support. She says that she will take care of Xiao from this moment forward, and this was how they ended up becoming brother and sister. Thankfully, this means that they are not related by blood and Xiao's intrusive thoughts aren't as nasty as they were made to be shown. It is at this very moment that Xiao wakes up, seemingly from a dream, and then he decides to get out of his room for some fresh air. He spots Lan sleeping on the couch and wonders whether she was up reading scripts all night. Our hero decides to help his sister, but his actions only lead to him seeing Lan in a rather delicate pose, and it triggers his fantasizes once again. The touch of Jiang's smooth body and silky skin is more than enough to drive Xiao crazy, but then the babe actress starts murmuring about grilled fish. Our hero is a bit confused to hear this, but figures this is not the time to let his desires get the better of him. He lifts his sister properly and wishes for a time in the future where he is the one taking care of Jiang. This touching moment is interrupted with another sequence which is meant to give us some context. We see a photograph of a newly married couple, Jiang Jingyuan and Wang Suzhai, both of whom look very much in love. They give birth to a baby girl, who turns out to be Jiang, and raise her well at first. Unfortunately, married life got the better of them and they ended up as a typical couple, fighting at almost every possible opportunity. This turned out to be a traumatic experience for Jiang, and the effects of such a relationship are perfectly symbolized by the tearing up of the wedding photograph we saw earlier. This translated into unresolved issues for the babe actress, as she grew up with animosity in her actions and resentment in her heart. Lan ended up living with her mom, and she always held her dad responsible for ruining his marriage. This obviously got in the way of their relationship, and with Jingyuan finding a new partner, things only got more complicated. This new woman turned out to have a child named Gu Kai, which basically means that Lan and he would have become stepbrother and stepsister if Jingyuan chose to remarry. With the distance growing between Lan and her dad, Jingyuan tried to make things up with his daughter, so decided to go see her on her 20th birthday with an emerald necklace as her present. However, he unfortunately met with an accident which ended his life. Luckily, he did manage to leave behind a farewell letter to Lan which he wanted her to read. This turned out to be a rather touching letter, as we see Lan bursting into tears over the content. It is revealed that Jingyuan addresses the issues he faced with his wife, and how their tumultuous marriage ended up affecting Lan in the worst possible way. He states that he was too young to get married, but his own father had arranged the wedding and there was nothing he could do about it. He explains that his personality was quite different from Lan's mom, as he wanted to go out and work while she wanted him to stay at home and spend time with her. Of course, this led to several arguments and eventually a broken marriage. Even though both parents had tried to act nice in front of Lan, it didn't take long for her to grow up and realize what was going on. Jingyuan believed this was the reason why she would never forgive him. Jingyuan holds himself accountable for being a bad father, and even points out that he would follow Lan to school and wait for her outside. This was when he first saw her fending off some bullies because she had no father figure to keep her protected. The sight broke Jingyuan's heart, but he knew that he had no right to step in because he was never there for Lan in the first place. He is very proud of his daughter, and he even reveals that he had paid for her education. On top of that, Jingyuan would send a present to Lan every year, but would have his wife say it was from Lan's grandpa. This was because he feared that Lan would reject the present if she knew it was from her father. Jingyuan eventually talks about the emerald necklace he got for Lan as a birthday present. He even recalls the time he had once worn a green suit to a school ceremony where even Lan was wearing a green dress, hoping for everyone in attendance to identify him as her father. The letter is filled with several emotions and touching moments which strongly express how much Jingyuan regrets his behavior as an irresponsible father, and he sincerely yearns for a chance to see Lan once more. He also mentions his new partner whom he wants to marry, but also mentions that he's seeking his daughter's consent for the same. This was probably why he was in a rush to meet Lan in the first place, which ended up causing the accident. Jingyuan ends his letter with a heartfelt apology and wishes for his daughter's wellness, but as we all know, he never got to see Lan and get closure. This calls for a heavily emotional moment for Lan, and even us as the audience, but time is a great healer, and we see both Lan and Xiao visiting Jingyuan's grave. Lan tells her father's tombstone that she and Xiao are doing well now, which means that she has forgiven him for everything. It's a wholesome moment, but we must not forget that Xiao's feelings for Lan are stronger than ever. What's going to happen next? If you enjoyed this video, in the meantime, here is another video that you will enjoy.